Today, we are diving into a truly mind-bending model of reality. It's called the Sabbath Mirror, and it's a theory that tries to map our entire universe across 12 different dimensions, blending physics, consciousness, and even ancient wisdom into one single cohesive structure. Now, it's going to get a little weird, but stick with me because it is an absolutely fascinating journey. So, let's jump right in. So, here's the roadmap for where we're headed. First, we'll unpack the core idea that reality is a song. Then, we're going to explore what's called the descent, which is basically how our physical world gets built, piece by piece. After that, we hit this crucial turning point, the stillness of the mirror, before we begin the ascent all the way back to source. And finally, we'll zoom out and take a look at the universe's grand logic that holds the whole shebang together. All right, let's kick things off with the big idea, the core concept that this whole model is built on. And it's an idea you'll find echoed everywhere, from Vedic texts and Pythagorean philosophy to Aboriginal songlines. The universe wasn't built like a machine, it was sung into being. I mean, think about that for a second. This is the central question of the Sabbath Mirror theory. It's asking you to completely flip your perspective, to stop seeing reality as just a collection of objects and start experiencing it as this grand cosmic melody. And in that melody, every single one of us is a unique note, contributing to the overall harmony. Okay, so if we're part of a song, how did that song get composed? To figure that out, we gotta go back to the very beginning. This next section explains how the universe builds the reality we know from the ground up, a process that the source material calls the descent into complexity. The best way to think about this is like the universe is taking a giant exhale. It's this journey away from pure unified potential and towards diversity, information, and physical form. It's the process of pure consciousness basically deciding it wants to experience what it's like to be separate, to be physical, to be, well, us. Okay, let's build our reality, literally from the ground up, one dimension at a time. It all starts at dimension 0, pure, simple consciousness, the fundamental I am. But then that consciousness decides to do something. It begins to vibrate, which creates a pulse. That's dimension 1. Now, this vibration isn't random. It carries data. It becomes light, or what we can think of as pure information, and that's dimension 2. So where does all this information live? Well, it needs a container, right? That's dimension 3, our familiar 3D space with length, width, and depth. But a world of just space is frozen solid, like a photograph. So to get things moving, we add dimension 4, time. This gives us a storyline, taking us from one moment to the next. And finally, you have dimension 5, which contains every possible storyline. Think of it as the multiverse, a massive, infinite library of every alternate path, all just existing as pure potential. And this all leads us to the final step of this outward breath, dimension 6, the omniverse. This is the absolute perfection of the system as a machine. It represents the limit of complexity, the point where every single possible piece of information has been calculated and expressed. The outward expansion has gone as far as it can possibly go. So, if the universe is expanded as far as it can, what happens then? Does it just stop? Well, this brings us to the great turning point, probably the most crucial concept in this entire theory. It's a state called the stillness, which the source names the Sabbath Mirror. The source material describes the Sabbath Mirror beautifully as the space between thoughts. Let that sink in for a moment. It's not a location you can travel to. It's a state of absolute stillness, a moment of perfect rest, where that outward push of creation just pauses. It is the great turning point. And this, right here, brilliantly illustrates the mirror's function. It acts like a cosmic polarity flip. See, everything in phase 1, the outbreath, was all about building the machine. More complexity, more expansion, more information. But after we hit the mirror, phase 2 begins. The logic completely inverts. Now it's all about the spirit. It's about finding meaning, integrating all that experience, and returning to consciousness. So what does this return journey actually look like? Well, the universe is no longer exhaling complexity. Now it's inhaling meaning. This is what's called the Omega Ascent, where all the experiences from the first 6 dimensions get refined and integrated. Now, here's the really elegant part. This isn't some brand new random process. No, it's a perfect mirror image of the first phase. Every single dimension on the way down has an exact counterpart on the way back up. The whole structure is perfectly symmetrical. This slide really lays it out for us. Let's look at how these pairs reflect each other. On the way down, we had dimension 4, which was linear time, right? Its mirror on the way up is dimension 9, eternity, a state where all of time exists in one single static now. We had dimension 5, the multiverse of all possible paths. Its reflection is dimension 8, purpose, the one single authentic path that's been distilled from all of those possibilities. And finally, you have dimension 6, the peak complexity of the physical machine, which is mirrored by dimension 7, divine intent, the consciousness or the will behind that machine. Okay, so we have this push outward into complexity and this pull inward towards meaning. And this is where things get really interesting, because this model suggests these might actually be the answers to two of the biggest mysteries in modern physics. It proposes that dark energy is the push from that outward breath, the force that's driving cosmic expansion. And dark matter? Well, that's the pull of the inward breath. It's the gravitational glue of collective purpose, drawing everything back towards unity. All right, let's zoom out and put all the pieces together and look at the grand architecture of this whole system. The source gives us this really powerful analogy that makes the entire dimensional stack so much easier to get your head around. Think of reality as one giant cosmic computer. Dimension 0, consciousness, that's the user. Dimensions 1 and 2, vibration and light, well, that's the operating system and its code. Our world, dimensions 3 and 4, that's the user interface we're interacting with right now. Dimension 5, the multiverse, is basically the cloud, storing every possible version of the program. And black holes, they're the hard drive ports, moving data between all the dimensions. So, what's the shape of this whole cosmic computer? Well, get ready for this one. It's a torus, a donut. Why? Because the starting point, the alpha, and the ending point, the omega, are both zero-dimensional singularities. They actually occupy the exact same coordinate. This means the universe is a closed, self-referential loop. The end is literally the beginning. And the whole thing, this entire cosmic dance, is driven by a super simple binary. You have light, which acts as the one, the force that's breaking symmetry, creating complexity, and pushing everything outward. And then you have gravity, which acts as the 0. It's the weight of consciousness itself, the force that's pulling everything back inward, trying to restore that original perfect symmetry. And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. This model presents the universe as a kind of 12-string instrument, constantly playing this cosmic song of descent and ascent. So the final question this theory leaves us with is a really powerful one. Are we just passive listeners to this melody? Or are we active participants, learning to play our own part in the grand cosmic symphony?